Use it or lose it. Okay.
So, Steve, define what you do.
I invent medicines. Most recently, I've invented a number of medicines that use the active ingredients from cannabis, like THC and CBD and CBN and CBG and so on. And those medicines are useful to help all sorts of disease conditions in people and animals. So first I invent them, then we make small samples, and then we run clinical trials. That's pretty much what we do.
And why should anybody listen to you?
Well, I think I'm mildly entertaining. Beyond that, I developed this drug called methadone to help my buddies 50 years ago who were coming back from Vietnam. I thought that heroin addiction was a disease, and that wasn't thought of that way by most people back then. And once I thought it was a disease, then I figured there might be a drug to help it. And once I did that, I thought, well, let's go look for a molecule. And I figured that out. So I have some background in working my way through this process of what it takes to get to being a pharmaceutical. And then beyond that, I got FDA to approve my drug, and methadone's gone worldwide and saved 20 million lives. So I think that's a pretty good starting track record when you're 22, 23 years old. I picked up a law degree, became an FDA attorney, and I've gotten 250 medical devices and drugs approved at FDA, so I've seen the process. I know how to work through it and who's real and who's not. And frankly, I think I'm pretty real, and beyond that, these molecules are just terrific to work with. They are so safe. I've never seen such a remarkable non-toxicity in anything that still has a pharmacologic effect. And so I think for those reasons and maybe others, people ought to at least consider what I've got to say.
Fair enough. What are the different chemical structures in cannabis?
Well, there are three basic categories of chemicals in cannabis. The ones that we call the THC type molecules, and they are psychoactive. Not psychoactive in the sense that LSD or mescaline might be, where people go off on uncontrollable trips, but rather they're able to influence a person's sensory experiences, sometimes enrich it, sometimes actually give some feelings of anxiety or paranoia. So those are the THC molecules. THCA, the acid forms of them are what's actually in the plant. So you have to heat it, combust it, and that's why people smoke, to get THC. Then there's the non-psychoactive cannabinoids that are similar but different enough that they don't impact the person's ability to see and perceive reality as real, and that's CBN, CBG, CBD. There's over a dozen of them identified so far. And then finally, there's a category called terpenes, and there's hundreds of them. And terpenes are in nearly every plant in the world. It's terpenes that are, as chemists, we call them volatile at room temperature. It's what gives an aroma to something. So if you have pine oil, for example, that has pinene in it. That's a terpene. It's also in cannabis or hemp plants. So that's the three major categories of chemicals.
How many different products do you think could be made from cannabis?
Probably not more than 400 or 500. And I say that tongue in cheek because I know in the field of cannabis now and in the field of pharmaceutics that there are creams and lotions and edibles gummies and cookies and all sorts of food products, soda pop, as well as bandages that people wear, suppositories. Soon there'll be eye drops available. We specialize in oral products like tablets and capsules, but within that you can put any variety of THC, CBD, whole plant extract, partial plant extract, and so out of that you get hundreds of different products. And even beyond that, you can take all of the regular, for example, over-the-counter pharmaceutical products and add small amounts of THC or CBD into those and end up with thousands more products.
What's something that people don't know about cannabis that, from a scientific level, you find interesting?
That's a great question. I had a discussion with some Michigan cannabis regulators on exactly that topic. What people often don't recognize is that people's bodies, as well as animal bodies, have mechanisms by which they innately recognize cannabis molecules, including cannabis type molecules like anandamide that we naturally produce all the time. And that because of the body's receptors, it's able to recognize these molecules that either the body creates or we add in from outside, including terpenes. And so that means that you can use products that come from, let's call it the plant hemp, or the plant that's called marijuana, which is higher in THC, or from others, and the body can't tell the difference. It really can't tell the difference between the cannabinoid molecules that it creates intrinsically and what gets added to it. If I can just add on to that a little bit, it's a concept called structure/function. That is, if a molecule has a particular structure, that may help figure out what its function is in the body. And if you give molecules that are similar in structure, the body will probably metabolize them or utilize them just as if it came from within the body. And so that's this idea of structure and function. It's not that chemicals actually look like these stick models that people see. They're clouds, probability clouds of electrons, but that's how the body recognizes them.
If you could tell one story and have it make the documentary film, what would that one story be?
My life as a researcher has proceeded in a particular way, different than others. I don't know if this will resonate with anyone else, but I always had this idea that I wanted to help somebody. And if I could help somebody, just one person, that was a pretty good deal. But then, if I could somehow use that to help 10 people, now I've actually done something that's worth living here on this planet. But now, can I do it to help 100 or help 1,000? Business world calls that scalability. And so that has been the story of my life. First wanting to find a drug that would help a buddy of mine who came back from a Vietnam War as a heroin addict. I just wanted to help my buddy. It turned into a drug company because somebody had to do it and they told me it was me. And that went worldwide and became methadone. Had no idea. And now, working here in cannabis, I got into this because another buddy came back from a war, had experienced something terrible, and had PTSD. And so he made me vow to help people. And I've worked to help my buddy John. John isn't even here among us anymore. But that's what's stuck with me. And out of that, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people will be helped to deal with their anxiety out of the tablets we've created. And it just means it's like a homework assignment. You have to do your homework assignment before you get to go out and play. My mother was a high school teacher, and that's what she drilled into me. I know that's painful for a lot of people, and it sure was for me, because you'd much rather play. But it adds such value. It's added so much value, given me a mission that I can carry on through all life. I hope that story resonates with some people. I'm Steve Goldner, and I'm Pure Green Pharmaceuticals. Thanks for tuning in to the Mary documentary.